Hi, everybody. Welcome into Pass the Mic. It's a show that spotlights the accomplishments, the paths, the successes, and sometimes the struggles of women in sports and sports media. I'm Peggy Kusinski, host of season 2 here on Pass the Mic. If you're a fan of the show, please let us know by giving us the thumbs up on your YouTube channel. And don't forget to subscribe. We have last season's episodes available with John Buffone and Alyssa Barbieri on the Barroom Network. Great conversations you will want to check out and maybe binge on a cold winter night that's coming up, and some great shows earlier this season as well. So Pass the Mic was created with a simple yet very important goal, and that was to feature women in sports and sports media. Often we highlight their struggles along with their success because through open and honest conversation and discussion, we know that we can impact other women and men in and out of sports. Our guests come from all over the country, not just here in Chicago where we tape the show, but nationwide. Sometimes it's all over the world too, from veterans in their industry to newbies just getting started. Everybody has a story. This week, our guest is a woman who is a basketball legend, a legend in Chicago basketball circles as well. The winningest high school basketball coach in Illinois state history, including 10 state championships. She has retired now after 45 years coaching girls basketball at Marshall High School in Chicago.
Certainly bittersweet news here for student athletes that grew up on the city's south and west side and took basketball seriously and wanted to make a profession out of it. They dared for the dream to be coached by the legendary Dorothy Gaters. Well, today, after 4 decades on the court, Gaters is now passing the baton.
So let's welcome in Coach Dorothy Gaters, joining us now on Pass the Mic. Coach, how are you?
I'm just great. Thanks
It
for
is,
asking.
you know what? It's so good to see you. And when I heard that you had retired, my jaw just dropped open because Dorothy Gaters is synonymous with basketball in Chicago. You are the winningest coach in Illinois state high school history. You can't go away. You can't possibly stop.
Well, I'm kind of overwhelmed with my outside responsibilities. And I was not enjoying basketball to the extent that I had enjoyed it in the past. So I have so many things to keep me busy. I thought it would be best for me to spend my time trying to assist my great grandkids' mother.
Oh my goodness, great grandchildren. I can't believe that. Oh my gosh, how blessed you are. How lucky you are to have great grandchildren. I wanted to take people back to when you started coaching, Dorothy. In 1975, I was in 7th grade playing at Immaculate Conception Grammar School on the northwest side of the city. I played 7th grade basketball, but I do remember that the school in my neighborhood, the high school, Resurrection High School, had just started their girls basketball team maybe 4 years before that, right around Title IX. So you got into a game that I don't even know, were you even able to play basketball in high school?
No, we had some idiotic game called Captain Basketball where you had to stand on like a base. So I guess they figured girls shouldn't run. But in Iowa, they were playing there and tremendous success with their attendance and state tournaments and everything.
Oh my gosh, I remember that. That was my mom played at Alvernia High School in the 50s in
Isn't that
Chicago.
right?
And
Oh,
they
wow.
played 6-on-6, but it wasn't competitive against other schools. It was more like an intramural, type of program. So take me back, like when you said you played captain basketball, which blows my mind because back in the 70s when they were passing Title IX, they did let girls play tennis and they let them play things where they wore a skirt. So, what
Right.
was it like when girls started playing other sports, whether it was softball, basketball, volleyball, more physical sports? What was that like back in the 70s?
So for the girls, it was a lot of fun, and for the people who had trepidations, they probably said, "Oh my God, they can really play, they can really catch, they can really run, they can really make baskets." So, but the girls, I mean, they were just so excited about it. Not just my kids. I'm sure all of the schools that they would have an opportunity to compete at the level that we were being allowed.
So you started a team called the Debs. It was an
Oh
AAU
wow.
team. I can't believe I thought I knew everything about you or almost everything about you until I read that you had started an AAU team called the Debs. Tell me about this team.
So I was working at the Park District my junior and senior year in college, and I was made aware that there was an AAU program for adult women, and younger ages could participate too. So while at the park, I organized a team, and one of my favorite kids, she's now a grandmother. She would wait for me every day, and her name was Deborah. And so when I was trying to think of a name, I thought of Dorettes. That sounds too much like a musical group, but that was the name for me because I was the person that was starting it up, and I decided to name it the Devonettes for this kid in honor of her.
Oh, I love it. When did Marshall then get a girls basketball team for the high school? What year?
So I'm real, real, real terrible on years, but I think it was 1975. Prior to that, we had a program called GAA. You may remember that. Some of your
Yes.
listeners may. So we had this Girls Athletic Association, and we started a team in that within that group, and we played 4 games our first year, and we won only one. And then the next year, we still played 4 games, but we won three. And after that, here comes Title IX. They said, hey, you can organize and have a team. So the kids were already eager because, some of them had played on this previous GAA experience. So that's what happened. I just had wonderful talent to start off with. So they knew the game because they played on the playground. I didn't know the game, but I never let them know I didn't know. So my job was just to make sure that, that they were disciplined kids, they had good sportsmanship, and eventually, through watching other people and watching the TV analysts, Billy Packer, Al McGuire, so I just started to pick up things, and I would watch our boys play, and I just started to pick up things that I thought were applicable to our talent.
You just told me something that I don't know if you remember the late great John Saunders. He was an ESPN and ABC college basketball play-by-play guy. I worked with him at ESPN, and when I was going into the business of sportscasting, he said to me, "Peggy, don't ever tell them what you don't know how to do. Just
Right,
get the job and then
right,
figure out how to do it."
exactly,
I mean, that is such
exactly.
great advice. So I love the fact that you really didn't know the game of basketball. But your teams, Dorothy, I mean, you went from those 4 wins those first couple of years. By the time the IHSA started their first state tournament championship, 1976, your teams went downstate almost every year. You had extraordinary talent and you really could coach.
Well, I don't know about being a coach, but I had extraordinary talent. Our kids, they just loved each other. They would go through a wall for me, and I would do the same thing for them. And it was just great. Practicing was so much fun. There's always a lot of laughter. And participation was, it was a byproduct of, what we did in practice. So whatever we did in practice, we tried to duplicate that in the game. So there was no real strategy involved at that point.
Did it ever feel like work to you? I mean, because I feel like covering sports is just a blast. I love it. It's in my
Right,
blood. Um,
right.
there's days where it feels like a job, but overall, not really. How about you?
But with the earlier teams, no, it didn't feel like a job. I couldn't wait to get to practice. And
Mhm.
they were the same way. They couldn't wait to get on the gym floor. So those were just wonderful times for the teams as well as myself. But later on, these last few years, many days it felt like a job. So,
Mm.
and that's because the kids have changed so much. They're watching the clock to see how many more minutes they have before practice is over. And then they come out with their cell phones, checking their messages. When we didn't have cell phones, the kids came out talking and laughing and enjoying each other's company. So it's been a big, big change, all due to our current situation with cell phones and all of the things that progress brings.
Social media, and then you throw in the pandemic, and
Right.
sports was put on a hiatus. It's been a tough couple of years.
Right, but I had already decided before the pandemic that I was no longer going to coach. Actually, the previous year, I had notified my coaches that I wasn't going to coach anymore. And then I thought about it a little bit because we had 9 returning players, and we had already won back-to-back championships. So I was like, wow, we got a chance to do something real special. And I stayed, for that year. And then the pandemic hit. But I had already selected a successor, and the pandemic just made me more convinced that I was doing the right thing because I had a time that I never would have had before. I started to play golf again and, just have some private time. So
I bet you're a good golfer.
I am horrible, but I'm going to get better. I apply the same approach that I did to basketball. I would be at the range almost every day and watching YouTube. So I was like teaching myself. Finally, I got an instructor and helped me out a little bit. But yeah, I have the same passion. I just want to do it right.
Wow. So I remember the girls I played against, your Marshall teams back in the early 80s. I remember Peggy Christians and Janet Harris and Annette Jones. And was that your first championship team?
That was minus Janet.
Minus
Janet had
Janet.
graduated earlier, a year prior, and I think we were undefeated going downstate. And so my mother told me, she said, "Well, why don't you quit? Because all of your best girls, are leaving the program." And I'm like, "No, that's not all of them." And so the next year, we had a chance to win it, and we had just lost the best player in the nation, which was Janet Harris. She was
Oh,
an
yeah.
amazing person and player. She was just dominant in every aspect of the game, and
You
such a
had
pleasure.
you had some incredible athletes, like we were just saying, outside of Janet Harris. I mean, folks, this is a woman who has coached 5 former WNBA players, including Cappy Pondexter, who was a 2-time WNBA champion and Olympic gold medalist. Dorothy, I mean, the list goes on and on of the great players that you have coached. Have you heard from a lot of them since the word leaked out that you had hung up your whistle?
Oh yeah, I've heard from many of the kids. A lot of it was on Facebook. Marie Christian and I, we still talk. At least once a month. We still talk. Janet Harris, she's always been very private, but I heard from Janet. I mean, so many of the kids, I can't even count it. but they had such nice things to say on Facebook. So I called them my extended family. I still call them my kids, even though they're grandmothers already. It is amazing to me when I think about it. Like, wow, where did the time go?
Oh my gosh. You said you call them your kids. Being a
Mhm.
coach is more than calling plays and running a practice. Being a coach, you are a mentor, you are a mother, you are a father. Sometimes you're a police officer to these kids. I didn't even know that you're even someone who sets them up as a matchmaker for prom. You've had to do it all, huh?
Yeah, Alfonso McKinney, who recently joined the Bulls, he took one of my kids on date to the prom, and she was the prom queen.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
So you've also met and sent your girls to some of the greatest college coaches in NCAA women's basketball history. Whether it's Pat Summitt or Doug Bruno here in Chicago at DePaul, Virginia. What has it been like, the relationships that you have with so many of the great college coaches in the game?
Oh, it's been wonderful. Some of them, I can just pick up the phone and call and, ask questions, or, if I see them, I won't name this coach, but we've met out in Vegas on many occasions, but her buckets are always so much bigger than mine. So, but it has been a wonderful experience. I always made sure that my kids were taking the right classes uh, and offered tutoring when they needed, because they were like my kids. And so after playing 4 years, I want them to be able to get into some of the best universities. And something you probably are not aware of, in 1985, three kids from Marshall played in the Final Four, all on different teams, all of them starters, and all of them received their degrees. So that was Marie Christian at Old Dominion, Janet Harris at the University of Georgia, and Annette Jones at Western Kentucky. And then we
That's
were
pretty amazing.
downstate. We were downstate, and so Podgy and I, we're talking like, I'm like, Podgy, if we lose, I'm gonna come down. So she's checking with me. Did you win? I'm like, yeah, did you win? And so we finished up on a Saturday night, about 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and we talked. But they played the next morning at 12, so I couldn't make the game.
Oh my gosh. I can't imagine that haven't any of these coaches offered you jobs, or universities try to get you to come coach at their school, and yet you have stayed at Marshall.
Well, actually, I haven't had much of an offering. Two schools in the Chicago area offered me the coaching position. One of them told me they were giving me a courtesy call. I'm like, wow, really? But I always felt that it was fun what I was doing. The pay was minuscule, but I enjoyed it. And then, my mom was here, my dad passed. And so my mother needed me more than ever before. So I couldn't have enjoyed myself, knowing that my family needed me.
Mm. I want to ask you, because we talk about on this show, we talk about some of the struggles that women have gone through throughout their career and whatever their career is. It's no secret that you coached in a rough neighborhood on the west side of Chicago, where if these girls didn't have this opportunity, the streets could get them. How
Absolutely.
how much
Absolutely.
do you feel that legacy is so important? The opportunities that you have given hundreds of girls to get out of their neighborhood, see the world, travel, go to college. These opportunities, you can't overstate or understate just exactly how big it is to some of them.
Absolutely. And that's something that I would talk to the kids about, that the world is bigger than your neighborhood, your community. Every year since the early 80s, matter of fact, when Janet was there, we would go out and play suburban schools. We would go to different states. And I was really just trying to give these kids some experience as to, what could be in their future.
You came to our school, Resurrection High School on the northwest side of the city.
Right.
My coach was Andy Pancratz at the time, who had played his college ball at DePaul. And Dorothy would bring her Marshall team in the summer to our school, and we scrimmaged against you guys. And that's how we became friends with the girls on your team. But Dorothy, by doing that, do you realize how much you helped change the game of basketball? Because in my neighborhood on the northwest side of Chicago, they were playing a very static, set half-court game.
Right.
And when you guys came to scrimmage against us, you guys showed us a fast-paced, physical game of basketball that I saw the guys playing, but I'd never seen women playing basketball like that. You really helped change the game of basketball for women. And I don't know if you realize that.
When I have time to reflect on these memories, it probably would impact me a little more. But I wanted my kids to have fun, and that's what they did on the playground. They didn't walk the ball up the floor. It was fast break and open basketball, open court basketball, and that's what they enjoyed doing. And that's what they were best at doing. So, we have to play at the level that our athletes can perform. And so sometimes, I may have had a bunch of slow kids and we couldn't run as many fast breaks, but I always wanted them to have fun, and playing open court basketball was the way that they had fun. They enjoyed the game.
I know one thing that was not very fun for you in the early days was the girls being exposed to some racism. Tell me about what you guys would face.
So we face a lot of racism, a lot of sexism. I've had coaches to shake my hand and just squeeze it until I had to say, wow, So, I mean, we went through the gamut. In terms of racism, I always told kids, you're as good as anybody. And we have to be better than our opponents. And so we didn't really focus on the jeers or the boos or the 1,000 fans that may be there for one school and 100 that's there to see us. And I would always tell them their fans can't play for them. So we were pretty tough skinned, and they were tough skinned before they got to me. But my job was to prepare them for the atmosphere.
Last question for you, Dorothy. I know you're going to spend all this time now with your great-grandchildren, which is really wonderful, a very selfless act on your part as well. What do you want people to remember about you in the game of basketball? What do you think your legacy should be?
Well, primarily that I cared for the kids a lot. I wanted to see them succeed beyond high school. And many of them have done that. I got 2 PhDs in the makings. I don't know if you remember Tony Foster.
Yes.
She'll be okay. She's working on her doctor's in something with criminology or something. She teaches at the academy. And then I have another young lady who got a PhD in physical therapy. But I think that's the job of coaches as well as teachers, to give the kids hope and to try to find an avenue for them to succeed. And so I think that our program has done a tremendous job in doing that.
Wow. Dorothy Gaters, coach to hundreds of girls, mother to all of them, and really a pioneer in girls basketball in Chicago and throughout the country. Thank you so much for joining us on Pass the Mic and sharing your story. And I know we're going to motivate some other girls to follow in your footsteps and walk the walk that you paved for them. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Peggy.
We'll be right back with the mic drop after this.
Are you still sleeping? How tall is the tallest tree? Where do crayons get their color? Do you understand me? How big can a bubble be? How high can I climb? How fast can I fun. How long can we spin?
She should question everything,
Why do we have a bedtime?
but never herself. That's why there's Girls in the Game,
Are we there yet? What does water come from?
helping young girls turn why
What are clouds made of?
into why not.
Wow. If you didn't know Dorothy Gaters before, you're going to be really happy that you know her now. To have the opportunity to meet pioneers in an industry is really huge. To be able to thank the pioneers is even bigger. I love the fact that I was able to thank Dorothy for everything she has done for girls basketball in the Chicagoland area and the state of Illinois. There is not a coach in Illinois that doesn't know who Dorothy Gaters is. There are hundreds of girls she has coached, as she told you, from Janet Harris to Tony Foster getting a PhD at the Chicago Police Department, to Marie Christians and Annette Young, Cappy Pondexter. She has coached some amazing talent, but she's coached a lot of other girls that you don't know the names of, girls that she has made just as big of an impression on because she gave them an opportunity. She gave them the chance to do something outside of just sitting around their neighborhood. Dorothy Gaters gave girls an opportunity right when Title IX was starting. And she leaves the game of basketball, leaving that opportunity not behind, but a much more open path that she has paved. It is sad, though, to hear her say that the kids have changed and they're not as committed. They're distracted by social media and technology, carrying their phones with them, always checking the clock. Hey, I've got teenagers and they do that. And it is really annoying and it's really hard to get through to them. But I think that what Dorothy Gaters is doing in retiring, it's the right way to do it. Nobody wants to get kicked out of the game. Nobody wants to overstay their welcome. Sometimes you just know when the time is right to tie things up, or in her case, to hang up her whistle. Thank you to Dorothy Gaters and all that she did at John Marshall High School on the west side of Chicago, and all she did for girls basketball throughout the country. Now, listen, guys, if you like this episode of Pass the Mic, don't forget to click the thumbs up. Then go back and binge and, do it again and again and again and tell other people about the show as well. You can follow me on Twitter at Peggy Kusinski or on Facebook, Peggy Kusinski, NBC Chicago, and on the gram at NBC Peggy. This isn't the only show that I host. There is also our podcast, which is on the Podbean Network as well, the Barroom Network on Podbean. It is Chicago's sportscaster and her son. You can find it right here on YouTube. Please check it out. We're also available on audio wherever you might listen to your podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe to both shows. Thanks to Coach Dorothy Gaters of Chicago's Marshall High School. Thanks to my producer, Aldo Gandia, for making me look good and making the show look as good as well. Thank you for everything this holiday season, especially for you for watching. Please pass the word and pass on the link as well. We'll see you next time on Pass the Mic.
Thank you.